Hey guys, welcome back to Super Switch U. Today, there's not like new stuff to talk about. I mean, it's still kind of quiet as far as like official stuff. A lot of this is either speculation or just these little like tidbits of stuff collected from people playing Switch 2. So I figured, I've been playing that one for a while. This one, just get all the Mario Kart World goodness up here on screen. But I've played it enough now. I think I can give it a pretty good, solid review. So that is what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk about Mario Kart World, right? And is it worth the $80? Is it not worth the $80? Is it better than Mario Kart 8 Deluxe? I feel like these are the things we could talk about today. We could figure this out. So, for this, I'm gonna have to break down a lot of different things, um, because there's quite a bit to Mario Kart World. Um, so let's start with the basics, right? It's Grand Prix. Grand Prix. There are 8 of them. You have to unlock the last one, which I'll be honest, I kind of appreciate the needing to unlock one. Uh, a lot of games kind of steer away from unlocking stuff anymore, because people complain. It's like, oh, you got to do all this work just to get all the game or whatever. But it's better than paying for the DLC and having it just all there. And, it feels like you earn it at the end of the day. So there's that little bit of extra good feeling whenever you do get something like that last Grand Prix, or unlocking the characters, the carts, the costumes, the mirror mode apparently, because that does exist. I have not done it, but I do know how to accomplish that now, and I'm gonna have to go through everything on 150cc. Started with 100 just to get a better feel for this one because of the grinding and the wall jumps and rides and stuff. There was enough new. I feel like I needed to like brush up on the new stuff and then jump into the hardest difficulty first offered. Not that they won't do a 200 cc's later, but as far as I know, it doesn't exist in this game. Uh, Trying to think what the track list was. Let me see if I can pull that up. But I'll talk about some of this other stuff while I'm going. It's just for the most part, it's all fine. The tracks are fine. It seems like a lot of them, it's more about driving from one to the next instead of just doing the whole course 3 laps or whatever, and then doing that. So it's kind of fresh in a way, but I don't know. Like you get and you lose with that one. So it's hard to say that it's better, just that it's different. And so there's that. Just one thing to note for sure while I'm trying to also focus on this. Just a second. Tracks. There we go. Moo Moo Meadows popped back up into this, and I think I mentioned that before, but I'll talk about it again. Uh, we got it in 8 Deluxe. I don't remember if it was actually in the base game, or if it was a DLC from 8, or if it was the uh, booster course pass. But we've had it, and we've had that in like I think almost every game so far. So there we go. We got this broken down like by track list. So we'll come back to that in a second. But I mean, that one track did not need to come back. Just Moo Moo Meadows did. I know the cow's in there for the first time, but you could have done something different. You could have made a new course for the cow. Something. Okay, so you got your courses here: Mushroom Cup, Mario Bros. Circuit, Crown City. They're fine tracks. They don't really stand out. Whistletop Summit doesn't either. DK Spaceport, however, was kind of neat. Just having the giant robot Donkey Kongs and they're throwing the barrels. I did actually very much enjoy that. It was a nice detail to throw in. And so you're going up thing kind of like original Donkey Kong, the metal bars or whatever you call those. Flower Cup, a little more of the same. Desert Hills, the desert course. Air Fortress doesn't really stick out. Wario Stadium is, Wario Stadium. But Shy Guy Bazaar I kind of liked because it seemed like, especially with the palace, and it has Daisy's flower, and the Flower Cup is where you unlock Daisy as a playable character. But Shy Guy Bazaar kind of felt like they brought in Sarasa Land from Super Mario Land on the Game Boy. Uh, so Daisy's actual kingdom. So that was kind of nice. I did enjoy that being part of that. At least I assume that's what they were going for. Star Cup. There's Wario's Galleon. Starview Peak was cool. It was a nice Mario Galaxy-esque course. Sky High Sunday. It was colorful and whatnot. So I mean, all four of those were fairly decent. I mean, DK Pass I think was a brought back course, but the other three were very much new and very very unique. I liked it. Shell Cup. Yeah, Peach Stadium doesn't stand out. Koopa Troopa Beach doesn't stand out. Crown City does not stand out. But the Faraway Oasis was cool. All the animals and stuff running around while you're going through, and it has this like Lion King kind of vibe with the giant rock peaks and stuff. That was neat. That was very much cool. Banana Cup had Dino Jungle, where you can actually grind and stuff up some of the dinosaurs. You got to dodge the feet. That's probably one of my favorites, to be honest with you. And then Great Block Ruins, or the Great Question Block Ruins, like that was cool. It was different enough, but still kind of fit with Dino Jungle, so they kind of mesh really well. Leaf Cup. Leaf Cup has Boo Cinema, and that I like because of the costumes you get from there. Specifically Waluigi's and the Vampire. Oh my gosh, that's probably the best thing in the game is the Vampire costume. But it just when you're going through like the film strips and stuff and you start looking like you're in an old black and white movie, that actually is, I would say, my favorite course of the game is Boo Cinema. And then something after that would probably be more like Dino Jungle and the Oasis. And, here we go. So Lightning Cup. Oh, maybe these other ones weren't. Maybe Lightning Cup is one of the... Never mind. I'm trying to think something here, and that's not true, because I'm already this far in. But no, Lightning Cup has Moo Moo Meadows, which should not be here again. Choco Mountain's not great. I mean, it's neat that they added in like the chocolate that you can sink into, but it's other than that, it's kind of a very dry course. Toad Factory doesn't do a whole lot. Bowser's Castle is a Bowser's Castle. They're about dime a dozen. And then Special Cup, which is the one you unlock, has Peach Stadium, which wasn't that already in one? Hold on a second here. Okay, so it uses Peach Stadium again. I don't know that I paid attention to that. It's true, though. I felt like it was different. I may have to go back and relook at that, like actually just playing that course. But, yeah, that's weird. Never used one. So it's a little less for that. Acorn Heights was kind of cool. You drive around this big tree, and it's got the bumblebees and stuff. Rainbow Road was really well done this time. And Mario Circuit, which is just basic Mario Circuit. So I mean, just as a whole, though, it's a Grand Prix. It's a Mario Kart Grand Prix set. Uh, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily better than Mario Kart 8 if you just compare like the base game for this versus the base game of 8 from uh, Wii U. About the same for track quality. Because that's if you got to strip away the DLC, you got to strip away the booster course pass and all of that too, and they're about the same. Knockout Tour is the next mode, right? And that's actually a very nice addition. Like, probably one of the best parts to it, to be honest. Because then you do get, it's like 6 courses together, and it has that nice feel of the challenge, like in F-Zero 99, where every checkpoint you're knocking out the bottom 4 people, and you just keep going till the end. So there's more of a sense of urgency to getting to the top. It's not like, oh yeah, I fell down to 23rd or something and I could just get myself back, because no, if you don't get yourself back quickly, you're out. You're done. And so you're fighting more for that, and so is everybody else. And it is a really competitive, really fun mode. So that's probably the best part of Mario Kart. Uh, there was Versus Race, which you don't. I thought you built the Grand Prix together, but instead you pick a course and you drive to another course, and so you're making it that way. So there's still some customization there, which is definitely better than previous Mario Karts, because you couldn't just do single races unless you were doing like a time trial or something. But to be able to do that competitively with other people and just pick from anywhere, and kind of make it your own thing, it's nice. It's not the mode that I go to the most or even regularly, but it is nice on occasion to just be able to do what you want while still having a race. Because I know free roam, yeah, you could do anything you want out there, except for have official races. Uh, just starting somewhere and ending somewhere, which that would have been cool if they didn't do that. So then, yeah, let's talk about free roam, which I mean, I've went back and tried looking for some stuff, and I've gotten a few panels, a peach coin or two, and I've done some of the challenges, and the challenges are fun. Like, that's probably the only really good part of doing this, because just hunting for panels and peach coins, sometimes it's a lot of work for not a lot of payoff, as far as I can see. So I don't know if you're into that kind of like exploring type of stuff, it's great. But if you're looking for something that's like action packed and really keeping you into the game, always doing something, this still really isn't it. There is still some gaps of nothing while you're trying to find this stuff, and it's sometimes hard to stay in it if you're not like in the mood for that, just driving without a purpose, because that's sometimes what it feels like. So I don't know, it feels like they could have, probably should have done more with it. Like, if there was a story mode, right, and there was challenges, and you were like going to complete missions, and you unlocked cutscenes and things along the way, and it felt like there was a reason to go to these things. Maybe, but it's kind of like how I felt with uh, Welcome Tour, and that sometimes the walking from place to place felt more tedious than it was enjoyable. Like I said, I walked that whole strap thinking that it was going to take me somewhere, and it sure doesn't. And it's just a walk, and sometimes you're just walking. And Mario Kart World, sometimes you're just driving in free roam. And it would probably be better if there was people to play with. But from what I've seen, it is only single player uh, on one console, and so you would have to connect to other people who have a Switch 2 with Mario Kart. And the problem with that is I don't know anybody else that could get a Switch 2 and Mario Kart or a Switch 2 in general. So my friends list of people that I could connect with, none of them have Switch 2. So all the stuff like the camera interactions, the game chat, these extra things that are specific to Switch 2, and it seemed like they were pushing for the console. I have no use for this. I can't use this until any of my friends or family can afford a Switch 2. And in this economy, good freaking luck. uh, I mean, we barely did this, and I traded off maybe not half of the collection from Switch 1, but I traded off a good chunk of stuff and yard sale, and like it was for a good minute there, it felt like it wasn't going to happen. And then we got it, but it's barely. And if they release even half the games for the rest of the year that they're planning on, I might have to miss some stuff. They're already planning on missing Kirby first day. I might have to switch that Daemon X Machina pre-order if Metroid Prime comes out too quickly. I don't know. That's not what we're here to talk about. We're talking about this one. So let me get right back into what we were saying and stop going on tangents. So free roam's a little disappointing. The costumes, however, some of those are really cool. I liked Biker Waluigi a lot. I already said Vampire Waluigi is the greatest thing. It probably wouldn't have been half as good if they didn't change it to say Vampire instead of Vampire. But it was great, and you got like 3 characters that kind of make up a very Aladdin style costumes. Luigi's got one that looks like Aladdin. Daisy's got one that looks like Jasmine. And Wario looks like the Sultan whenever you get his. It's a gold hat and a gold attire and stuff. So that's kind of neat. Just, trying to find the right foods for the right drivers to get those costumes. There's a bit of a challenge to that, even if you do what I was doing and just go to like one Yoshi food stand and just sit there and get those items repetitively and try with every single person until you've done it all, and you move on to the next food station. Like, you still don't always get what you need, but it's fun searching for that. I am very much disappointed with the lack of cart customization, which I feel like I've said this before too, but it is actually very true. I don't know that you could do a whole lot of it before. I want to say it was Mario Kart 7 that first allowed customization, and I could be wrong, but I think 7 did, and then 8 had a lot of it. You had a lot of different wheel options, kart options, glider options, so you combine that with a driver to get the stats that you want, and you could make a whole strategy based on that, which is why playing as Toad with the Mr. Scooty and like all the little tiny wheels, that worked for me. I had a strategy for Mario Kart before this, and now it's unlocking carts with wheels all together and the glider, and so that's all you pick. Is you pick a driver, you pick a cart, and you're done. There's no customization, no nothing. And it feels worse for not having that as an option, right? And then, I guess just jump from there, character selection wise. And I'll go ahead and pull up the full character roster too while I'm at it. But I got pretty much the idea in my head. And there's a lot that also seems missing. Try to type and do. But there's there's a lot of the weird little enemies that I can't think of too many people that are just like, man, I'm so glad that I could play as Monty Mole or a Goomba or the little crab. Um, there's too many of those and not enough like actual main characters from the Mario series, because I feel like we had more in Mario Kart 8. Actually, I really feel like I should do a side by side comparison. So, I mean, since we're talking about Mario Kart anyway, 57 characters in the base roster for World, and then it was 36 for Kart 8 base roster. As far as people that are missing from 8, you have none of the Koopalings, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 7 of those characters gone. And then you still have all 5 of the babies, Toad and Toadette. Okay. So, other than the Koopalings, the main roster's there. You don't have the Mii drivers in this. So that's 8 characters missing, which, to be fair, like the Mii characters, they don't really add anything to it. So if they were missing, like, we're not losing anything there. When you get to like the weird little enemies as characters, there's Koopa, Shy Guy, Rikitu. Oh, that was it, wasn't it? Yeah. It is all the crap characters that we had in that one. So you only had like, was it 4, 3? 3 of those plus a Metal Mario and a Gold Peach. Was it Rose Gold Peach? Yeah. So like 5 characters that were just kind of thrown in, but everybody else felt very main character to the Mario series. Whereas of your, what did I say? It was 57 characters. 27 out of 57, so it left like 30 that were, you could consider them more main characters than the rest of this. That's saying, Pauline wasn't part of the main cast. You didn't have Birdo. You didn't have King Boo. You didn't have Nabbit. Dag Nabbit. And that's... Yeah, that I think is it, actually. Oh, but I guess Bowser Jr. wasn't technically part of the original 36 of Mario Kart 8 either. So, I guess you give and take on character selection as far as from the base of one to the base of another. But if you tried to go back afterwards, 56. So, the finalized version of Mario Kart with all extra things, you are 1 character short from what you have in Mario Kart World. But even with all those additions, they added Wiggler and Dry Bones and Tanuki Mario. Was Peach actually added? It might have been the last one and I just didn't pay attention. Dry Bowser. So there was not much that wasn't like a main Mario character, even in that finalized 56 roster. But you lose so much of that in World for. I mean, seriously, like some of it, okay, sure, people seem to love the cow for some reason, um, and I'm sure somebody's maining dry bones out there. Piantas, you could say that's a little bit more important of a character, but what you don't need is things like the bat, the little blue things from Sunshine that launch you. Charging Chuck is probably nobody's favorite. Freaking snowman. Who asked for the snowman? Probably nobody. That, the coin purse frog thing, those weird long necked birds. I don't know the names for these things. We're just kind of going with it. But you know what I mean? Like, it's crap. And I get it. It's because of the item, using Kamek as an item. But Kamek was a driver in 8 Deluxe after it was all said and done. Now it's just an item that gives you all of these unnecessary characters, but you are missing so much when it comes to how this used to be, and with all the other stuff. And yeah, you know, you could argue either way. Koopalings are not important, but you don't have Diddy Kong, you don't have Funky Kong in there, you don't have Link. Just start naming the other Nintendo characters because that was a nice addition for one game. But thing is, there were characters that could have and should have been brought in some way, right? The costume thing allowed for Captain Toad could have been a separate thing, even if it was just a costume for Toad. But instead, when you get the adventuring or the touring costume or whatever it is, they changed the color scheme so it's not Captain Toad. Yet Toadette's identical costume is Captain Toadette, or whatever you would call her from Captain Toad, from the game. So that was unnecessarily left out. You could have had Professor Egad. He's just gone. You could have had the frog boss thing from Mario Bros. 2. You could have had any of the kings from Mario Bros. 3. Or just like one, and all the additional costumes could have been the rest of them. You could have done that with the Koopalings. You could have just had those as additional costumes for Bowser Jr. And it would have just been like, okay, well now he's can't think of any of the names. He's Ludwig, or he's Mort, or whatever. Could have had any of those. Toadsworth could have been a character, not there. Any of the things from the Mario parties, like the guy with the dice head, or the weird hat thing from Mario Party 8, all very much missing. You know, I'll complain about this pretty much forever, unless they bring us some DLC that gives us the characters. But that's the thing. Professor Egad should have been. You could have had Polterpup. We talked about this before at the direct for Mario Kart World, and that these things were missing. And the roster we got instead is so much unnecessary junk, as opposed to what fans actually wanted. At least I would hope that fans weren't crying out for the penguin. The penguin that you could take its babies and throw off the ledge in Mario 64. I didn't need to drive as that. I didn't need to drive as the baby version of that. Which it's not, but like, I'm not saying it's out of the realm that they could have thrown that in later as a DLC. We don't want that. We want the other stuff. So, I mean, even like at this point, when you're throwing all that crap in there, you could have put Cappy in there. You could have put the rest of Pauline's band in there if you're just going to throw in crap characters to get 24. Uh, you could have put the flowers from Mario Bros. Wonder. You could have put an elephant version of every character as just like, there's the Mario Wonder thing. It feels wasted. Oh, like the Toad variant where they had the flower heads instead of the mushroom heads. Where's that? Where is that? It's not there. So yes, I do have a lot of complaints. A lot of complaints. But I don't know. I mean, if you really just try to look at gameplay and how much fun you can actually have with this, it's there. It meets all the criteria for a Mario Kart. They changed a few things. There's some stuff brought in that's good, some stuff that's not as good as it could have been, and they took out some things. So now we gotta rate it, and I'm just gonna stick with the exact same system that I had before. Let me find a pin. Here we go. Okay. It's out of 5 stars. Drum roll, because I'm still kind of thinking, but honestly, I'm thinking 4. I'm thinking a 4-star out of 5. I was kind of on the fence. I was thinking maybe a half, like a 4.5. But I'm really thinking about it and really comparing it back to Mario Kart 8. And like, yes, this version, when you're playing it on like a 4K TV and you got the setups right, it looks amazing. It is visually stunning, which doesn't always mean anything. A game could be visually stunning and a load of steaming dog crap. This isn't necessarily a steaming pile of dog crap. It's just they could have done better. And so I'm not going to sit there and lie to you guys and be like, yeah, it's 5 stars, like the best thing I've ever played, because it's hard to say that this did or didn't do better than Mario Kart 8 when Mario Kart 8 was fully complete. Now, if you're looking at the base game of 8, yeah, because battle mode does have specific like track locations that are dedicated to being battle mode, whereas base Mario Kart 8 from Wii U absolutely did not, and it just used tracks, and so it had its flaws. It had a few things that were not quite there. But by the end of this thing, when you get the DLC from the Wii U, and then that was all starter for Deluxe with a couple extra things, and then the booster course pass that added 24 tracks and a bunch of new drivers, it is a very hard comparison, because I would almost say Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with everything would probably get a 5 or a 4.5. Probably, I don't know, maybe 4.5, because a few of the things didn't quite work. There was a lot of stuff, but we're not reviewing 8 Deluxe, so I'm not putting that much thought into it. I'm just saying, like, it does enough. Is it worth $80? This is where I struggle with this, right? I'm not going to say that it absolutely should have came out at $80, but the fact that it is $80, you're going to get your money's worth out of this thing over time. And I get, they probably will not release another Mario Kart the entire generation of Switch 2. If they do, it's going to be either a side project like the live circuit was, or maybe a Switch 2 edition of something, or I don't know, because I think that's why the 80. I think they knew from how long it took them to do Kart World we're probably not going to see one until whatever the next console is. So like this is it. This is your Mario Kart for the generation. And to put it out on launch day, they want to make sure like they're going to get the funds and whatever and do another one. Which yeah, Nintendo makes a lot of money. They've been around so long that they aren't necessarily struggling. But again, I get it. Cost of things is rising. The world sucks. Uh, but all things considered, I would still say it's worth spending the money on if you have the Switch 2. But if you're only getting the Switch 2 to play this and you have no intention to play literally anything else the entire Switch 2 lifetime, is it worth the $530 I spent for a physical copy, or the five? It was probably more like 550 when the taxes included and whatnot. So, is it worth the full price of the system and the game and nothing else? Probably not. But if you're already wanting to get the system and play all the other games and see what Switch 2 brings you, it's a good way to start. And I'm not going to say I'd spend $80 on it again. Mostly because I don't plan on anything else. I'm pretty sure. I've said this before. I'll say it again. This is probably the last for me. Unfortunately, it was a hard pill to swallow. It was a lot of accepting that I'm getting old and video games are kind of turning into something. I'm not to say I'm gonna not play video games ever again. Like, this is just what I can get between the Switch 1 library and the Switch 2 library is probably going to be just enough for me to be happy and play the games I want to play with my kids through my lifetime. And that's it. I mean, I don't know that any other system is going to catch me the same way. And even if it does, I mean, we're looking like 5 to 8 years before Nintendo talks about another console. Sony and Microsoft would have to do a lot to get me back into their gaming ecosystem at all. And it's not just like PS5 and Xbox Series was that nail in the coffin. Like, I don't even want to jump into these, and I didn't. I have still to this day never owned a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series anything, because I was so disappointed by PS4 and Xbox One. And when you go a step before that, PlayStation 3, it was, I'm not going to say a complete disappointment, but it was a massive step down from PlayStation 2. Original PlayStation was amazing, and PlayStation 2 was a step above that. But PlayStation 3 it took a pretty big step down. PlayStation 4 did not catch me. Because of their games. I mean, console can be the most powerful thing in the world, but if you don't have a fun game to play on it at the end of the day, and definitely enough fun games to play at, when it's all said and done, what's the point? What is the point of spending the money on the system, keeping it around, and holding on to all the plastic and whatever? Like, it's not. But Nintendo has done none of those types of systems for me, except for Virtual Boy. And I feel like it maybe was just a little bit ahead of its time, and definitely under appreciated. So, like, it didn't get the chance to get some really good, amazing games. It kind of got a launch in like a year or two after that, and like that's it, and it died. So I'm not gonna say they didn't do a bad one, but they didn't do a lot of bad ones. But that's my opinion on it. So what are you guys' opinions on anything that I talked about? Because I did kind of go off again on another tangent here at the end. But this was supposed to just be Mario Kart World review. So let me know what you think. Did I sell you on it with any of the good stuff? Are you concerned about some of the bad stuff on it? Have you played it yourself and you have your own opinions on it and you think, okay, you got this right, but maybe you're wrong about this, or maybe you're just like way off the point for me? Comment it down below. Let's talk about this. We will definitely discuss most things in that chat, in the comments down there. And yeah, I mean that is what I've got to say on Mario Kart. I have not technically done everything, but I have done enough now to say in confidence it's a pretty good 4 out of 5 star. To just those little things. The character roster could have been better. The uh, course list could have been a little bit better, just because of stuff like Mario Circuit and Moo Moo Meadows and stuff that probably didn't need to be there again. Uh, but stuff that could be fixed with a good set of DLC. Throw some extra tracks in, and uh, extra characters. The things that are missing, not the crappy little enemies that nobody asked for. But that's it. That's all I got. So hit that like button, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.